Hey everyone, my name is Efo. This video is going to be about the most famous pickup artist book ever, The Game. Recently, I've taken an interest in the manosphere. Since COVID hit, there seems to have been an increase of young men struggling with loneliness and a certain sense of inadequacy. From this struggle and the proliferation from social media, we've seen the rise of all kinds of figures and communities, from the red pill to the sigma male phenomenon, from ball standing to testosterone supplement, from Jordan Peterson to alleged sexual trafficker Andrew Tate. It seems to me that within the manosphere, there are a plethora of answers to the suffering of these men, some worse than others. And while some of the actors may be well intentioned, there are, again in my opinion, a lot of vultures preying on lonely men for their money, their attention, and their following. But ultimately, the biggest problem is that what they are offering will not work. In fact, it is way more likely that it will actually hinder these men struggling with loneliness, despair, and a sense of inadequacy. And so, what I want to focus on in this very video is one of the first self-help method for men. What started all this mess? The pickup artists. I want to take a look at Neil Strauss's The Game, Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists. Within this book are contained the fabled secret, allowing you to have sexual relationships with many, many beautiful women and achieve your status of a real manly man. Also, there's a lot of drama. But who am I to try and take a look and criticize and put down the methods of supposedly seduction experts? Well, I used to be a social worker. I was helping people out with a wide variety of various psychological issues within a clinical setting. I also teach psychology at a college level. Now, does this make me an absolute expert in the art of the pickup artist, or does it make me an expert in the field of seduction, if that's a thing? Well, no, not really. No one's particularly an expert within that field unless you're doing research specifically on the subject. However, I'm reasonably competent in all things social psychology, as well as competent in all of the ways that you can help people that are in fact suffering from problems such as social isolation and feelings of despair regarding their lives. As a matter of fact, before we even get into the book, here is what I would tell a young man who is genuinely suffering and thinking about looking into these wide communities of pickup artists, the red pill, the black pill, incels, whatever they may be. What we would be working on is trying to understand that while you might feel like you're a failure because you're not financially successful, nor do you think you are sexually successful, these are not the metrics that you need to use to feel good about yourself. Being a good person is more than a number in a bank account or a body count. Being a good person, someone you can be proud of, starts from what is meaningful to you. If what is meaningful to you is having sex with a lot of women, well, that's your prerogative. However, is it something that you decided on? Does it fit with your actual values and feelings? Or is it something that society has imposed on you? If you feel alone and isolated, going out for a random hookup is not going to break that. Finding someone, a partner, friends that you can be intimate, real, and cultivate a meaningful relationship with, this has a much higher chance of making you feel whole, making you feel good about yourself. And that is not something you will be able to find within these communities in the manosphere. And since I'm such a nice guy, here are 4 things that you could do that will help you pick up chicks. That could help to try to find someone to fall in love with you. It's all very simple. There's nothing crazy. There's no trick. There's no social hacking. There's no manipulation. There's no dialogue tree you need to go down. There's no pickup line you need to memorize. It's all simple. First of all, groom yourself. Take care of yourself. Wear decent looking, well-fitting clothes. Have a decent haircut. Maybe not like that one. Trim your nails. You don't need to look amazing. You don't need a six-pack. You just need to look okay. You just need to look presentable. You just need to look like you take reasonably good care of yourself. 2, be comfortable in social situations. Confidence is actually important. This is actually something that pickup artists will say. Yeah, confidence is key. And it kind of is. You need to be comfortable in social situations. You'll get better at it the more social situations you put yourself in. You need a lot of life experience to not feel awkward, to be able to act in a way that feels natural to you. And you don't need to go out on many dates to achieve that. You just need to live through life. Go out, go and meet people, go to parties, not necessarily to get a girlfriend, get laid, just do it to meet people. Being socially competent is like any skills you can develop. You do it a lot and you get better at it. Playing guitar is the same thing. Everybody sucks at first. Nobody comes out their mom's vagina a social butterfly. You get better by doing it a lot. 3, and this is gonna sound like a bit of a cliche, you need to be yourself. You need to be authentic. Mind you, trying to act, trying to be someone you're not, will only result in people thinking you're awkward and weird. It's very easy to tell when someone is acting. It's why it's so impressive when an actual great actor is able to play a character seamlessly. You're gonna come off as awkward. You're gonna come off as weird. You're gonna come off as off-putting if you're forcing yourself to say things you're not comfortable with. One of the key in finding a romantic partner is to find someone with a personality that matches well with yours. And if you're pretending to be someone you're not, and you get someone to fall in love with you, that person will have fallen in love with your persona, the mask you've been putting on, not in love with the actual person you are. You will remain single and lonely. And 4, whenever you're in a social situation, don't try too hard to have sex or to try and start a relationship with someone. Try to get someone to fall in love with you. If you think that things are going well with a girl and you think, oh, maybe I could get laid tonight, shoot your shot. That's fine. That's fine. Don't go in trying specifically to have sex. Try to go in any social situation just trying to have a good time. Joke like you normally would. Talk like you normally would. Talk about what you are passionate about, not what you think the other person will hear from you that will make them want you more. And really, that's all there is to it. It's very simple stuff, but it's actually kind of hard to do. It's hard to be yourself and be comfortable with who you are. It's kind of a life's work. And if you're young, it's not unheard of that you'd feel kind of awkward and have trouble trying to be who you are. You might not even know for sure who you are. That's part of growing up when you're a teenager, a young adult. There is no secret techniques. There is no shortcuts you could use. I could try and come up with a system that I'd sell you that I would claim is foolproof to try and find a romantic partner or get laid. I'd be lying. I would be absolutely lying. Don't fall for people trying to tell you that they have actual techniques that will work no matter what. It's a lie. But now that we've sufficiently poisoned the well, let's actually check out what the real masters have to tell us. So before we start, first, do keep in mind that some of the content of this book is borderline TOS breaking. So there may be talk of sexual content that, in my opinion, verge on sexual assault and sexual abuse. If there is, I will warn you, and I will keep the graphic details out of this video. Second, I really should mention that what is found within this book came out in 2005, and it might not represent what pickup artists actually believe and do today. In my opinion, there is a through line. You see a lot of the same content in this book that you do in nowadays pickup artists. However, it has evolved. In my opinion, it doesn't make it particularly more effective though. And third, unless the content of the book is laughably untrue, we're gonna assume that the author is not lying to us. All right, so let's go for it. Now, the book is divided into steps, which seems to more or less represent the different steps that you will need to follow as a pickup artist in order to pick up a girl. And these individual steps are separated in chapters. Now, you would think that within these steps you would find techniques to pick up girls, but no, actually, sometimes some of said steps are way more about the author's personal lives or about some drama with pickup artists. They're kind of messy bitches. In my honest opinion, if you wanted to make a book that included all the techniques that you could use as a pickup artist, as well as a reasonably well-detailed explanation of said techniques, the book would be 10-20 pages max. However, that wouldn't sell. And this wouldn't tell us just how grimy and gross the entire pickup artistry thing really is. Step 1. Select a target. Do keep in mind, no target will be selected in this section. Instead, this section is divided into mystery and style. Mystery is the mentor of our protagonist, who is the author. Style. We will get to mystery in a later video. This section, titled Mystery, simply talks about an anecdote where Mystery was having his heart broken by a girl and Style tried to help him out. To me, it kind of reads as fanfiction, as if Neil Strauss, Style, the author, wanted a way to make Mystery seem weak while he was a strong savior-like figure, where the student overcame the master. So it kind of reads as pretty fake to me. However, I wasn't there. We'll pretend it's all true. Sure, why not? We'll get to Mystery later. And so, the meat and potatoes of this section has to do with Style. The very first thing he says about himself has to do with his physical appearance. Lots of whining about, oh, my nose is too small, my eyes are too beady, whatever. It sounds a lot like what incels say to each other. He follows that up by talking about how he changed his entire personality so he'd be more popular with girls. As I said earlier, authenticity is important. I would surmise that by the end of this book, Style will not be in a healthy relationship with a girl he meshes well with. He follows that up by talking about how much he believes himself to be a good person. However, he just can't stop thinking about women, obsessing over them. He links this to some musings about Hugh Hefner, a literal playboy millionaire. So, what I gathered from the conversation was that there was a guy who's had all the sex he wanted his whole life, and at 73, he's still chasing tail. When does it stop? If Hugh Hefner isn't over it yet, when am I going to be? And at this point, you would think that this could be a moment of solemn reflection for our author. Here you have a man, Hugh Hefner, with more money than he could ever spend and more women than he could ever sleep with. And yet, he is not satiated. Maybe, just maybe, there is more to life than the pursuit of sex. Maybe you should be pursuing something of actual value to you. Well, that reflection doesn't happen. Or else, well, this book would be over and our author would be a much better person for it. So that's kind of a shame. Style then recollects how difficult his childhood had been and how he feels that put him at a disadvantage. In fact, I probably started off worse than most men. In my preteen years, there were no games of doctor, no girls who charge $1 to look up their skirts, no tickling classmates in places I wasn't supposed to touch. I do want to reiterate, he believes this is a bad thing. To not have been able to be sexually inappropriate with other kids is bad to him. Now, it is very normal for young children to be curious when it comes to sexuality, and to explore this in a healthy way is good. And while the behavior he is describing is not uncommon in children, it is not necessary to be exposed to this kind of behavior to have an healthy adult life. As a matter of fact, having those kinds of behaviors increases the chance of the person being exposed to sexual abuse. So, to hear our author be saddened by this lack of opportunity, to me, it's quite disturbing and quite creepy. After that, he recollects about how shy he was as a teenager and as a young adult, which prevented him from experiencing some, more appropriate sexual experiences, such as, not being able to get a blowjob because he just did not know what to do. And that makes him a lot more sympathetic here. I think most men can relate to the idea of, well, I was young, I was awkward, I didn't know what I was doing. If I did, I would have been able to have more fun as a teenager. So that's a lot more relatable. But here's a pro tip for you. If you want to talk about your sexual regret, don't mention children. Start at 16. He then recalls one of his classmates named Dustin, who, unlike him, had game. Keep that in mind. He recalls a time that he dragged 4 different girls in a dark corner of a bar for a quick session of kissing and groping within the same night, which he got their phone numbers for. Sure, we'll believe that. Now, Dustin is a pickup artist, a follower of one of the many gurus of seduction, and the person who will introduce style to the world of pickup artists. Now, I really want to point out that the author's opinion of Dustin is quite positive in this section, which makes sense, and he explains his success with women in a very unfortunate manner. Now, as a warning, the following statement is, in my opinion, really bad. This is the point already when I pretty much lost all empathy for the author. Nothing graphic is going to be coming up. However, there will be talk of sexual abuse. Just a warning. Dustin was what they call a natural. He had lost his virginity at age 11 when the 15-year-old daughter of a neighbor used him as a sexual experiment, and he had been fucking nonstop since. Now, I have no intention of beating around the bush. Dustin was raped. An 11-year-old boy cannot consent to sex. Not legally, not morally. Here is what an 11-year-old looked like. He was prepubescent. He was 2 years too young to be able to watch the Barbie movie by himself. And if at this point you're the kind of person who's thinking, oh well, an 11-year-old who lost his virginity to a 15-year-old girl, that's not too bad. As a matter of fact, that's every young boy's dream. Please, reverse the genders. Picture this, an 11-year-old girl losing her virginity to a 15-year-old male teenager who used her as a sexual experiment. You would ask for the death penalty. And again, any reasonable author would look at this and say, well, it's unfortunate, or something like, I guess these were different times or something. But no. He describes a boy getting raped as being a natural. Dustin is described within the book as having natural charm, an animal instinct, and to be a man who claimed to have found the combination to every woman's hearts and legs. This right here would be enough for anyone to immediately completely discredit this book and throw it in the trash. This is disgusting, and I will admit I did not expect the book to get this bad this soon. Against my better judgment, I will keep going, but I would not blame anyone for thinking that they've heard enough. And also, let me remind you that this is the most famous book about pickup artists. If this is not a massive, massive condemnation of the movement, I just don't know what is. And as for Dustin, it's impossible to actually be able to understand him as a person. We just don't have a whole lot of information about him. We have like 2 or 3 pages about him. However, the idea that after being sexually abused at age 11, he would turn to a life of hypersexuality and pick up artistry as a coping mechanism, that makes a lot of sense to me. It could be a way for him to retain control over his sexuality, make the trauma he experienced seem more banal, or to dominate women instead of being dominated by one. But we don't actually know if this is what's going on. From what we see in the text, Dustin is the only pickup artist I actually have some empathy for at this point, if I'm correct in my reading of him in this situation. And I really hope he got the help he needed, actual therapy. Anyway, moving on, Dustin introduced style to the world of pickup artists. The difference was that these men had broken down their methods to a specific set of rules that anybody could apply, and each self-proclaimed pickup artist had his own set of rules. And I really do find it fascinating that you have all of these different pickup artists with different techniques, different rules, and yet all of them are right. Like, the woman mind is such a mystery and is so painfully impenetrable, and only a true master of the woman's mind could possibly decipher its inner workings. But actually, just kidding. There's like 25 ways you can get a woman to open her legs for you. Any schmuck can do it. Just give me money for it, lol. And so I'd like to finish this pretty short section of the book with a little bit of levity. Style talks briefly about a few pickup artists, many of which I'm familiar with, but one struck me as particularly hilarious. Steve P., a seductionist so powerful that women actually pay to learn how to give him better head. Now, this is obviously bullshit. It's so obviously bullshit, it's actually hilarious. Like, yeah, I'm calling bullshit. I can't not call bullshit here. Not to shame the man for his looks, but this is what he looks like. And I tried to find more information about him because I never heard of him. I don't know him. But he doesn't have a Wikipedia page. He's nowhere. There are some YouTube videos here and there hidden on the web, but I was only able to find a pickup artist library describing Steve Pikus as an hypnotist, part Hells Angel and part Native American shaman, described as the godfather of the seduction community. Everything about this man screams, I am a scam. I know nothing about him, and I can still feel the slime and grime oozing out of his hypothetical bullshit words. And this does bring me some solace, because when I can't find any information about one of the most important figures in your movement, well, it does tell me that this movement actually has very little influence and very little reach. And that does warm up my heart. And so ends the very first section, select a target. Very short, and again, no targets were selected. None at all. It had nothing to do with selecting a target. If anything, if I thought the author was being clever, I would guess that the target was whoever actually bought this book. A mark to be indoctrinated and exploited. But I think I'd be giving the author too much credit here. I would actually say it's a pretty bad sign that in a book called The Game, we have yet to talk about said game. Just that it exists somewhere out there in the ether. However, next time we will actually find out more about said game. We'll meet this mysterious mystery person and see just how bad things can get. And so, stay tuned for that upcoming train wreck, and thank you so much for watching.